Cubs win the series, but they leave you feeling like they should have had more.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making Locked On Cubs your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode is presented by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Cubs take 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays over the weekend, all in one-run fashion. 6-5 win in 10 innings Friday, 3-2 win Saturday, and then going for the sweep Sunday, they lost 1-0. Cubs are 61-64 and 5.5 games back of the third NL wildcard spot. Remember, this is the first 3 games of an 18-game soft stretch against all losing ball clubs. The offense was more of the same, in line with the theme of the season, really, this weekend. You had Hendricks, Steele, and Imanaga on the mound as starters. We'll get into that. Bullpen was excellent, aside from Neris on Friday. And Sam, I'm left with a couple thoughts just right away. Save for going back to just citing their record over the 61 games from late April to early July. But I just wish this team was better, because there's more signs that, yes, they're not far off, but there's still a lot here that does leave you wanting more and annoyed and frustrated and things like that.
Yeah, I have a lot for this episode. It's all about timing, right? So if this series played out in April, we'd come out, the show title would be Cubs take 2 out of 3 for Blue Jays, and we'd say, oh, well, they didn't hit on Sunday. But because we have so much evidence over the course of the full season, you have to pick at the opportunity that they let slip up on Sunday. And, where I ultimately go, and my frustration goes to, every day I have the same routine when I wake up in the morning on a game day. I wake up, alarm goes off, I grab my phone. I go to my phone, I go on FanDuel, and I check the spread of the game, the odds of the game, especially the over-under, because I want to know what the win's going to do. So on Sunday morning when I did that, I saw that the over-under for the game was going to be 7. That's shockingly low, especially in August. My mind immediately goes, the wind must be howling in. Then I did some homework and realized that the Blue Jays basically had a very similar pitcher to Imanaga, fly ball pitcher, wind blowing in. I actually picked him up in fantasy, helped me win my weekend. Bowden Francis. So going into the game, runs are going to be at a premium. It's a 1-3 situation. And where I have been so aggravated with this club is just their lack of both macro and micro adjustments as an organization. So macro meaning throughout the season, lineup adjustments, putting in different guys, right? And then in-game adjustments is what I mean by micro today. The Cubs hit and had an approach today like it was late July and it was 98 degrees, or like it was early April. It doesn't matter. Nothing changed. They didn't try and do anything different. The first message that this was going to be a bad day today was that Patrick Wisdom was in the starting lineup. I understand that Isaac Paredes was fighting something with his shoulder, but putting in Wisdom instead of Bodie says, yeah, we're just looking for a long ball. Well, a long ball is really unlikely today unless you hit it to right field, which Wisdom never does, right? Fast forward all the way to the 9th inning. Cubs trail 1-0. They get a 99.9 mile an hour rocket from Suzuki. Great launch angle. Ball goes nowhere, right? Just not one of those days. Or just one of those days. Bellinger follows up with a base hit. One of your faster guys, man on first, 1 out. Here comes to the plate Nico Hoerner. Nico Hoerner has regressed mightily this season. It's been a really underratedly bad season for him. But he has one skill one skill that is better than everybody on the Cubs. What's that skill? Bat to ball, contact, whiff rate, strikeout rate. Wind is howling in at Wrigley Field. It's going to be really hard to score a run. So you got to push a button. I'm literally sitting on my computer and I'm getting ready to tweet. This is a perfect time for a hit and run spot. Take a pitch, maybe take two, because Nico Hoerner's probably going to hit a bouncing ball through the right side, or at least he's going to make contact. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, at least you tried to push the envelope a little bit instead of sitting on your hands and waiting for something to happen. That's what this offense does. That's what this organization does. They just have their binder and they wait and wait. And instead of having a chance of first and third, one out, Hoerner swings at the first pitch. It's a soft line drive to right field for an out. Bellinger steals second easily. The pitch after, Swanson makes an out. This Cubs team, the way that they're built, right? They don't have a star. They have it's built on a contradictory situation. They don't have a star player, but they have tons of guys who are automatic outs or duds, or too many of them, right? Then they don't have a star player. They don't hit a bunch of home runs, but they wait around and wait for the long ball. They don't play small ball. It's such a frustrating juxtaposition that they have. And over the last 27 games since the All-Star break, in the second half.
Oh, yeah, this is good.
They have scored 2 runs or less 11 times. That's 40% of their games. They're not even giving themselves a chance. They've been shut out 5 of those 27 games. So just because the average runs and all that stuff's improving, it doesn't make a difference. And I want to close with this, Matt. And then
I'd like you to can you just repeat that?
I'll repeat it for you.
So 2 runs or less
in 11 of their 27 games in the second half.
Okay, so 11 of 27, they've scored 0, 1, or 2 runs.
Correct.
It's crazy.
And then they've been shut out in 5 of those.
Got it. 5 of the 11.
And I just want to I do this about every couple of months because it's just an important exercise, okay? You're 11 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers. Christian Yelich has not been in the lineup now for about a month. I want to read you the lineup and their stat lines, okay, versus the Cubs.
You've done this quite a few times.
Because I'm trying to hammer home this simple point, and I'll get to it in a second.
Right.
Bryce Terang, 258, 321, 365. That's essentially Nico Hoerner at the top of the lineup. Jackson Chourio, 270, 316, 437. That's your 2-hitter. He's having a worse year than Michael Busch if you want to go by Jed standards.
Right.
William Contreras, 282, 355, 464. He'd be the best hitter. He's having a better year than like a Suzuki. Adames, 253, 333, 452. Solid for a shortstop. You'd like Dansby to be there. I'm not going to read them all. It's taking too much time. Garrett Mitchell, 243. Hoskins, 223. Frelick, 256. Ortiz, 248. The point I'm trying to make is the Brewers aren't that much better than you at everything except one thing: knowing how to win. Like, they just know how to win baseball games. One of their radio guys, I believe his name's Grant, I did a radio hit with him. You know, that's what he always says to me. We talk because the Brewers aren't good. They're not good at anything, but they just know how to win. They just know how to win baseball games. The Cubs, they have all these numbers, all these metrics, all these things, but they don't do anything to win. Today was a day that you had to do something different. You had to make an adjustment. You couldn't just sit and wait for the long ball, and they didn't do it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That was
so
really
the Brewers play small ball. They put people in motion. They're solid defensively. They take care of the routine play, make the extra play. They take the extra base when they can.
Hit in the clutch.
And they perform in high leverage.
Yeah, that's the big one.
At both sides of the ball, though.
Both sides of the ball.
Both sides of the ball. The other example that I was looking at over the weekend, Sam, similar to this thread, is the Royals.
Yeah.
You know, the Royals lineup, not great, but their 2-3-4, really good, and their 2 hitters a star.
Superstar.
You know, when you see the Royals lineup, you're not that impressed, but the 2-3-4, especially 2, maybe 2-3, it's clear. It's clear as day how big of a difference that makes, because their leadoff guy, Garcia, not great, and their 5 through 9, their OPSs all start with a 6 and maybe dip into the 5s. And they're rolling right now, and they're playoff bound. You know, it is the same song and dance every time. They go to the jukebox, they play the same song. They go on a nice little stretch. Maybe they decide they want a different type of a playlist one week. Then they go to Cleveland, get swept. They win 2 close games Friday, Saturday. You're feeling good. You're a minus 180 favorite before first pitch. You can't. It's 2 runs would have won the game. Two. You said race to 3. I'll even do that. 2 or 3 runs would have won the game. They didn't even really come close.
No.
There was a situation with Dansby up, bases loaded, middle of the game. That was about it. That was it. Boom. That was it. And, we're going to talk about the bullpen later in the show and my vitriol for Hector Neris as a pitcher. But there's components of the team right now that are not good. They're great. The bullpen is the biggest one.
Yep.
The starting pitching has regressed a little bit. Not a surprise. Not a shock. Not breaking news. The bullpen has become a major story to a point where, yes, we've went in depth on that unit this year, and even in the stretches they've played well, we've questioned some games or shared in that dismay. But you had a situation on Saturday in which something, I don't know what happened. I've cooled off since then because I believe that patience and showing people grace more times than not is probably a good approach. And, the Cubs people are humans too. But the starter went 2 innings and the Cubs won the game. Why? Because the fleet of relievers won in the game. It wasn't the offense. Yeah, Michael Busch had a clutch 2-out hit, one of the few the whole year.
Yeah.
But this Justin Steele pitched 2 innings.
Because of rain, not his fault.
I don't blame because of not 1 but 2 rain delays in the span of minutes of each other.
Yep. Okay.
And they still won. They won with Hendricks going away on Friday, if not for a bad relief pitcher, Hector Neris. And Sunday, Imanaga gives up the homer early, settles down. Ethan Roberts does a heck of a job, and they just can't help their guys. They can't help each other out.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Couple of things. 2 one-run wins Friday, Saturday, but the Cubs made those 1-run games. They
especially
didn't steal
Friday.
Yeah, they didn't take those. Sunday was a true 1-run game.
Right.
They were down early. They couldn't find a way. Saturday, I'll give them. That was a tight one. But Friday, they made that one.
Correct.
My issue is the way this team is built. I don't know what the phrase is, but the way they build the team and then the way they go out there and play, it's contradictory, right?
Okay, let's hear it.
They're built as a team that doesn't have a star, okay?
We know that.
But they're not supposed to have a ton of weak spots. They've had plenty of weak spots. Horner's been a weak spot offensively.
Right.
Swanson, Amaya, PCA for a while, he's been better, okay? And then without having a star, they don't have a closer. And then without having a star, not having a closer, they don't do little things well to win games. They're not sneaky. They're not good on the margins. And we all thought that this was going to be a team that was good on the margins because of Craig. We've documented that, maybe he's not worse than David Ross, but he hasn't done anything to make this team better this season in those certain situations.
No.
And so it just none of it adds up. And that's why I have some optimism for 2025.
Yeah.
Because there just needs to be some tweaks. If they could just eliminate the weak spots in the order, it'll be a couple more wins. If they could find a way to just be a little bit more aggressive and have a little bit more of a sense of urgency throughout 162 instead of just saying, all right, well, the numbers are this, expected numbers are this, hopefully it turns around. And or if they go get a closer, like they have so many little things that can fix, and they're going to end up probably as an 80-81 win team. So, that's the good news. The bad news is it's just been so frustrating to document it, throughout the season. And the last point I'll make is this. We can move on and talk about Hector Neris, which I'll let you do because I have. But by the way, I looked this up while you were talking.
And we're going to talk about Jorge Lopez too.
Top 5 teams in baseball with runners in scoring position: Kansas City, Arizona, New York, Milwaukee, Cleveland. They're all pretty. They're all good. And by the way, the Brewers are about 11th or 12th in runs and OPS and stuff like that. So it's just clear that they're just better in those spots. The last thing I'll say is if you want to make something if you want something to make you feel better, maybe this doesn't make you feel better, but with the type of person I am, it does. Last year when the Cubs didn't make the playoffs, it just felt unjust because we all know the Cubs were better than the Marlins. They were just better. Everything was better except the record by one game.
They didn't even have a great finish, the Marlins. They went like 5-2.
No. The Cubs should have been better than the Marlins. I mean, they had a minus 47 run differential, right. Cubs plus whatever. They snuck in. It was wrong, and they proved it this year because they're one of the worst teams in the league, and they were even before they traded guys. This year, the only reason the Cubs, let's say going into last week at this time, even had a sniff of the postseason is because the Atlanta Braves are without Spencer Strider, Ozzie Albies, and Ronald Acuna Jr., and then they were without, I'm blanking on the talented Michael Harris, the center fielder. They were out with him a while. The point is, if they were healthy,
Max Fried was out a month too.
Yeah, they would be, they'd be a 95-win team. They'd be right there with Philly. The Cubs wouldn't even be close. The path for the Cubs to make the postseason this year,
it's through the division.
It's through the division, and they're not even close. So it wasn't going to happen this year. Even if the Cubs, if everybody was healthy and the Cubs were playing better, and the Braves were even 90%, the Cubs would still be 6, 7, 8 games back. So
right.
It's a failure of a season and a retool, which we've known for a while, and you gotta fix it for next season some way, somehow.
Yeah, and we're going to look at different things with the 2025, frames on because that's going to be part of our last, stretch run of the season here. Like for Tuesday's episode, for example, Sam, I'd like to talk about players to watch.
Yeah.
Who's to watch the rest of the way with implications for 25 and things like that.
I'd like to talk about Matt Shaw too, heating up. In AAA.
Well, that's good. That's good. Off day Monday, then 3-game series with the Tigers, who are going to be without Tarek Skubal, who pitched in the Little League World Series game Sunday night. So the Cubs will be probably favored in all 3 of those ball games, and maybe even favored by a lot, just like they were this past weekend. All right, coming up next, I'm done with Hector Neris in high leverage situations, and the trio that we've talked about for 2 weeks on this show proved it again, why they need to be pitching in the 8th and 9th innings exclusively for this ball club. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by our great partners at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You could turn $10 into $1,000, and if you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The experience of playing with Prize Picks is so simple and fun. And here's an example right here. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard. 1. Okay, it's inevitable. Gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week, all of September. The whole month.
Wow.
1 yard by Caleb Williams. Okay, dare I say, the great Caleb Williams. Okay, our quarterback, Caleb Williams. 1 yard by this dude, that's a winner for you. Automatic. Every football weekend in September, 4 weeks of free W's. 4. Don't miss this deal because it's gone with September end. Shout out to Green Day. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to 100 buckaroos. Prize Picks, run your game. Cubs play the Tigers at 7:05 p.m. Central Tuesday, and you can hear every pitch of the Cubs hometown broadcast in Sirius XM by searching Cubs on the SXM app. Hector Neris should not enter a game in the 9th inning with the Cubs tied or with the lead the rest of the year. If you want to put him in like you did Sunday, Council, you can do that. It's up, it's your prerogative, as they would say. But There's no good baseball reason for Neris to be the closer, even for a losing team like this bunch is, not to mention all the personal angst he creates. Folks, when he enters a game, do you feel good about it? And this has been the case in spring training, in my opinion. And you can check the tape from our shows. You can check the tape. In save situations this year, Neris has a 6.26 ERA in 23 innings. He has ruined 7 games. I know people want to parse language on the internet because that's apparently they have nothing better to do. You could call them blown games. You could call them non-saves. I call them games that he ruined. Okay? Meaning the Cubs were either tied or ahead. And when Neris walked off the field, the Cubs were tied or they trailed. April 3rd, May 28th, June 11th, my birthday, June 17th, July 24th, August 3rd, and this past Friday. Sam, you can't convince me otherwise that Tyson Miller, Porter Hodge, and Jorge Lopez should be the ones who pitch the 8th and 9th inning in high leverage situation for the Cubs, especially when you consider Neris has a clause in his contract that kicks in if he pitches 60 or more games. He can't do it.
I just want to say I thought the last 5-6 minutes was some of the finest podcasting you've done.
Thank you.
I mean, the ad was great. The transition into Neris, who's really a lightning rod for you.
He's horrible.
Rightfully so. That was just beautiful podcasting. I enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you.
Look, you don't have to tell me.
Right.
This is my whole problem, right? This is another example. Too slow to adjust. It has been clear for weeks. You know, everyone that gets on me about they feel like I underrate Porter Hodge. I love him in the 8th inning. My only issue with Porter Hodge is he doesn't have my full trust command-wise yet in the 9th inning.
Yeah, you've said that, yeah.
But he's getting there, and he's doing a great job. I think that's fine for him. Jorge Lopez and Tyson Miller, since they've put on a Cub uniform, have been immaculate. Immaculate. If the Cubs offense wasn't such a disgrace and they were about 3 games better, we would be talking about how these guys saved the season for the Cubs.
Right.
If they were used. I mean, the game you
and
were
the
at,
computer says they should be 2 games better, by the way.
Jorge Lopez came in on Saturday. He gives up a leadoff home run, but he knows they're up 2. So he goes, I'm not walking the 9-hitter. If he hits one out with the wind blowing in, hat tip to him. He did. Then he goes, all right, no more. Time to lock in. He struck out the side 3. He
in the rain, no less.
He made Vlad Guerrero Jr. look like a AA player.
No kidding, dude.
I mean, he had no clue. I mean, and then how about Friday? Nobody's going to talk about it. Neris gives up 3 runs. Cubs go quietly in the 9th. Tyson Miller comes out. Strands the ghost runner. These guys have been brilliant for the Cubs. And then Hodge was stellar both days. These guys, it's the same thing as last year. You started the year with Fulmer and Boxberger as 2 of your main guys. And then by the middle of the year, it was obvious. It was Leiter, Merriweather, Alzolay. They missed it again. They started with Alzolay, they started with Neris, and then Merriweather got hurt. And now it's been clear there was no need last Monday for Merriweather to get that opportunity. The leverage now has been clear for about a month and a half, but it took too long to get there. Just like April of 23. By mid to late May, it was obvious Fulmer wasn't the guy. You know, and it's just again, I understand you can't just have one bad outing and be done with these guys. You have to give them some leeway. I get it. But Neris has got plenty of it. He's got plenty of it. To me, the result against the Sox on Friday night when they held on, that was enough to say, hey, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Totally.
And after Friday's game against the Blue Jays, Counsell said he's been pitching really well.
It's a bad take.
It's you know, it's sometimes I just feel
it's
like
insidious.
I'm watching a different program. Emily in Paris is back. That show's brilliant.
Go Cubs.
I've been watching The Office.
Go Cubs.
It's like I'm watching a different show. than Mr. Counselors. He's been pitching well.
And then apparently he wasn't upset about the rain delays. How does he not care about that? So strange. You say for the last few weeks, it's so true. Second half numbers, Miller and Lopez especially, they're literally putting up zeros, Sam.
Zero.
Miller 0.75 ERA in 12 innings. Lopez in 14 innings, 0.64. Guess how many runs he's given up in the second half?
Who, Lopez?
Yeah.
I think that was his first one.
That was the first one on Saturday.
Yeah.
A single run, the whole half.
I'm looking at Neris's numbers. So he had a really good month in August. Or in July, He had a really good month.
Did he, though?
Yeah, he had a 1.13. He pitched 8 innings. But
Okay, so he had 8 innings all year that were good.
In July, he had a good 8 innings. In April, he had a 4.50. May, he had a 2.70. June, 6.52. And a 6.75, obviously. But the problem with Neris is it's not about the results. His numbers are better than what he's been. He's not getting whiffs. His stuff does not look crisp.
No.
He's putting too many guys on base. It's just not if that guy's your closer, the Lopez, the Hodge, that stuff's crisp. That looks like back end of a bullpen type stuff. Neris' stuff from day one of spring training, to your point, has not looked like the guy that we thought we were getting.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I remember when we came on for him. It was a February Saturday. They signed him, and he hasn't been good. He's got
46 strikeouts in 44 innings. It's very, for
pedestrian.
For a closer, it's pedestrian. In 2021, he had 98 and 74. Last year, he had 77 and 68. Year before, 79 and 65. 2019, 89 and 67. His stuff has regressed, folks.
It's night and day. All right, coming up next, I just have a few notes about Saturday's Cubs for a Cure game. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel because it's part of my everyday life. Mm-hmm. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. We all have something. We'll have something different for you now that football season is starting. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. I'm going to say that one more time. FanDuel customers can bet $5 through September 22nd and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you could cancel anytime.
Wow.
The Bears over-under win total this season is 8.5, okay? I'm taking the over.
Wow.
And
fantastic.
They opened up as a 4.5-point favorite on FanDuel against the Titans. I suspect that's going to be at 5 or 5.5 by opening day on the lakefront. And I really think this Bears team's going to be really good. Okay, so look at that. You can look at you can take any other team's over-unders that you want. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sports book.
To wrap up the show here, third segment here on a Sunday for Monday episode, and thank you whenever and wherever you may be listening. A few notes from my experience at the game on Saturday. It was a very emotional day for us, and just wanted to share a few notes with you all. My dad really enjoyed the game Saturday. Understandably, a lot of up and down emotions. We were there for my mom, who died in 2018 of cancer, and I was glad to be there with him. My wife Kira was also there. Actually, two of my first observations. One, really cool how many Blue Jays fans were there. There was tons there. I thought that was cool.
Really? And cool being
Wrigley Field, it's just, it's down I'm not saying we take it for granted, but it's down, it's not literally down the street, but basically it is. this is one of the best parks on the planet.
Mhm.
Ton of history. So you get a lot of opposing fans, and the Blue Jays fans, Toronto, 7-8 hour drive. I for whatever reason got a kick out of that. Shout out to Greg, who was an usher at Wrigley Field and every day or to our show, Sam. Greg was also at our live show in Des Plaines.
Shout out, Greg.
Okay, family friends with my in-laws. And close to $1 million raised since Thursday for Cubs for a Cure, Stand Up for Cancer.
Wow.
We care so deeply about the Cubs,
Mhm.
and for them to put on this type of event was really, really nice. I hope they do it again next year. And I thought this was my last Wrigley trip, but I'm going to have at least one more because I think my dad's running the 5K next month, like he has the last 2 years. So
yeah.
I think I'll be there in about a month's time as well. And just wanted to share that third segment.
Wonderful. Can I share one thing?
Will you be going to any Cub games the rest of the year?
No. Could I share one thing with you? This is a little off topic.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the temperature down. I'm glad you had a good time. It's unfortunate that there was a lot of stop starts, but glad it was good. Glad they won the game. We need to do a show in the off season. I'll do the homework on this.
Okay.
On how Wrigley Field is really a pitcher's park. And throughout these 81 games a year, yes, there's some days that the wind blows out, but on days like Saturday and Sunday,
right.
I mean, it is just, and there's just so many more of those days than when the wind's blowing out. And it's a problem. And I think the Cubs need to really, they need to think about that.
Well, they should do a wind study.
Yeah.
WIND study.
Yeah. And just, how to manage that, because when I woke up on a mid to late August day, and obviously it's weather related, right? It was chilly today. It's supposed to be
you're right.
When it's cold,
breezy.
It's not. Yeah, it was breezy and chilly. I was just so disappointed. I'm like, oh, it's going to be an April game, and it's, it's just not that fun to watch when Amaya hits the ball to left center and the camera's got it going, halfway up the bleachers and it, barely makes the track.
A lot has changed since we were kids at that park.
Yeah, it's just, it's really,
I think it might be because of the boards.
And when you really analyze it, because there's no space out in the gaps either with the wind, I just think it's a pitcher's park.
Well, we're going to have
more days
of time
than not
in the off season.
Yeah, we could maybe talk about that like October 15th.
Oh,
let's start sketching.
October is going to be tough, relatively speaking, folks.
Yeah.
This is a baseball team we're talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're just having fun.
It's good. It should be interesting.
Smile, Matt.
Thank you so much.
One more thing.
Okay.
I love summer. And I love fall because
you're ready for bear season.
No. That's all I'm saying. Just calm down just a tad. Okay. Because work, slows down for me. But I got to tell you, Monday morning. So that'll be August 19th when that alarm goes off about 6:45 tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Nick Cozy, Tuesday.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be my first, oh boy, summer's over type of alarms because. The Cubs are out of it. Okay. Just say it. You know what I mean? And that really hurts. Last year we were playing, summer felt so much longer because we were playing important games in early September, mid-September, late September. So go ahead, close the show.
Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.